Hey guys, welcome back to another video, this time for my top games of 2015. And yes, I know it's a little bit late. I'm a little bit late to the party. Most people, like pretty much every single person that has done this type of video, they already posted it, but I know it's April of 2016. I'm a little bit late, but better late than never. I'm actually glad I took a little bit of a longer time because I was able to beat some 2015 releases that were in my backlog that made it to my list. So I'm kind of glad I waited a little bit, but in order to make up for the delay, I decided to do a top 15 games of 2015 in lieu of the typical or usual top 10 list that most people out there do. So I'm gonna do a top 15. I'm gonna blitz through the last 5, and then as I get closer to my top 5 and top 3 eventually, I will talk a little bit more in detail over my choices. But without further ado, let's just get started. And also at the end of my list, stick around because I'm going to mention a couple of games that, even though I had a 4-month advantage or delay in order to play a couple of games, there are a couple of games that I really wanted to play that were released in 2015 that I was not able to get around to them. So I'm going to mention a couple of games that I think would have made my list. So stick around to the end of the video if you guys are interested in that. But let's just get started with my number 15 choice. And this is a PS4 release here, Battlefield Hardline, which it was also out in other systems. I do have an impressions video coming up for this. I'm lagging behind a little bit with my impressions video. I'm being a little bit lazy, but yeah, Battlefield Hardline, it was a very enjoyable game. It had a pretty decent single-player campaign. Unfortunately, I was not very impressed with the multiplayer mode. I thought that it took a step down when compared to the mainline Battlefield games. This feels a little bit more of a Call of Duty type of game, close quarters, a little bit more arcadey in terms of the gunplay. But overall, it was an enjoyable game, enough to make it to my top 15. So Battlefield Hardline, a pretty decent first-person shooter on PS4, Xbox One, PC, and whatnot. Next up, we have a release that I think most professional reviewers or publications out there would never have this game on my list, but hey, it's my list and I really had a good time with this game. And I'm talking about Devil's Third on the Wii U. Yeah, I know this game got pretty much blasted with negative reviews, but as I mentioned in my impressions video, this was a very enjoyable game. It has a lot of quirky and cheesiness to it. It's like a bad action movie, but that is enjoyable to watch. A lot of cringe-worthy moments, in my opinion, in here, but overall I had a lot of fun with this game, especially in the single-player campaign where the characters are just ridiculous. The action is over the top, very violent, very gory, and I had a lot of fun with this game. No regrets getting this on day one. And to boot everything up, the multiplayer was also pretty fun. Unfortunately, the community is pretty much dead at this point, but I had a lot of fun playing this on the multiplayer, despite the glitches and the poor frame rate and whatnot. Devil's Third made it to my top 15 list, and I highly recommend, if you guys are interested, to check this game out because it's pretty fun actually. Don't listen to every single professional review out there. At number 13, I have none other than Helldivers for the PlayStation 4. I bought this game thanks to my friend here on YouTube, Leo. He was like, you should buy this game and we should play it online. And I'm kind of glad I did because this was a very fun multiplayer online co-op game that you can play with up to 4 people. It requires a lot of teamwork. It has an isometric view from the kind of like from the top, and you get different weapons and different items and perks that you can add to your soldiers, and you have to complete certain objectives, and I had a lot of fun. And this game is also very, very challenging, but the cool thing is you can adjust the difficulty to very, very easy to like super challenging, and depending on that you get better rewards and whatnot. So Helldivers, it was a very enjoyable game, and I'm actually looking forward to go back into this game. So let me know, guys, if you're interested in going back and exploring this game, because it was a very fun multiplayer experience. At number 12, we have a title that ranked way higher last year. This is the prequel, if you will, and we're talking about Wolfenstein: The Old Blood for the PS4, also out for the Xbox One, Steam, and whatnot. And this game is fantastic. If you're a fan of first-person shooters, please do yourself a favor and actually buy this game because the gunplay is fantastic. And Wolfenstein, The New Order, if I'm not mistaken, made it to my top 5 last year. And the reason why this game is somewhat quote-unquote low in my list this year is because it's more of the same, which is not necessarily bad, but the game doesn't have that wow factor, that fresh feel of that gunplay provided by Machine Games, the developer. So I knew what I was expecting, so there was not a surprise factor like I found myself with the New Order. But the Old Blood is a fantastic game, a little bit on the shorter side when compared to the New Order, but nevertheless a very solid first-person shooter single-player campaign experience. So if you guys enjoy first-person shooters, look no farther. Get this game. It's a fantastic action game for the PS4. At number 11, I think we're at number 11, a game that I still have to beat, but I decided to include it because I was having a pretty good time, and that game is Until Dawn, which is a PlayStation 4 exclusive. A very interesting game, similar to, I would say, like the Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls type of games, where there's a lot of things to interact. It's almost like watching an interactive story, and in this case, it's almost like a cheesy B horror movie type of deal with cringeworthy moments, as far as the dialogue and the voice acting and the characters. But nevertheless, the story is very interesting. If you know how to approach this game, I think it'll be a very enjoyable experience, and the graphics are very impressive. There are some technical hiccups here and there with the frame rate and whatnot, but overall the game looks fantastic, and it's, in my opinion, one of the strongest PS4 exclusives out there. So a very interesting game. I still have to beat it, but again, I was enjoying it so much that I decided to include it in my list, and it made it all the way to number 11 on my list. At number 10, another PlayStation 4 exclusive that it got a lot of flack, unfortunately, from reviewers, and that game is The Order 1886, a third-person shooter game with fantastic graphics. This is perhaps the best-looking console game to date, in my opinion, as far as technical, achievements in terms of the graphical fidelity and everything like that. But in terms of being a third-person shooter, it doesn't introduce anything new or spectacular. So I think a lot of people were expecting way more for this game. But in my opinion, I bought this game for cheap, for like $20, and I had a blast with this game. And I'm really hoping there's a sequel to this. The game has a little bit of an open ending that hints that there could be a sequel, so here's hoping that they decide to make a sequel, because I found the setting and the characters to be pretty interesting, and I know the game got a lot of flack for being short. Yes, it is a short game. Yes, it doesn't introduce anything new, but it was an enjoyable experience nevertheless. I really like the setting, the old school setting in the game. The weapons are also pretty crazy, so yeah, I had a pretty good time with The Order 1886, to the point that it made it to my top 10. This is my 10th choice here. Now we're getting into inside the top 10, and a game that it was a little bit of a divisive game. I think a lot of people didn't care too much for it, but I love this series and I had a blast with this game right here. And of course, I'm talking about Batman Arkham Knight. A lot of people criticized, a lot of people were excited because of the inclusion of the Batmobile in this game, but when the game finally came out, a lot of people criticized the use of it. People thought that it was being way overused in most of the missions, and yes, they may have a point, but me personally, once I learned how the grips of how to handle the Batmobile, I thought the missions were pretty interesting. And the game itself, it's an open world Batman game. You truly feel like you're a superhero. You're gliding all over Gotham City, and the graphics are amazing. The portions in downtown with the neon lights, advertisements in the buildings, everything looks fantastic in this game. And of course, that is backed by the very addictive gameplay that is common of these games, the free flow combat, which is, in my opinion, one of the most addicting types of combat systems out there in gaming. So it's a beat 'em up that allows you to play as Batman. You have a lot of perks, a lot of skills that you can unlock throughout the game, and I thought the story was pretty interesting as well. So Batman Arkham Knight, a very solid entry in the Arkham series, and in my opinion, very worthy of being inside the top 10 for me. For number 8, we have an Xbox One game. I know I'm a new owner of an Xbox One, but I was very pleasantly surprised by this game, and it reignited interest in a genre that I was a little bit forgotten in terms of my what I like, and I'm talking about Forza Motorsport 6. This game got released last year, and I haven't seen many people talk about this game around here for one reason or another. But this game basically, it's my most played Xbox One game, and I just had a blast. I really like the ability that you have to customize the difficulty and the sim/arcade choices. I think this game is more fun to play than the Gran Turismo games, which I've been a pretty big fan of the Gran Turismo games, but around Gran Turismo 5 and 6, they already lost me. It was way too sim. It was more of a chore to unlock your licenses and play the different handling types in cars. I believe, or I feel like that Forza Motorsport 6 allows you to give you more customization, and it suits your playstyle better. If you want to go sim with this game, you can adjust the settings, and it's a simulator basically. Or if you want a more arcadey approach, you can again, you can adjust the settings and enjoy yourself with this game. A ton of cars to select from. A lot of liveries that you can download from other people that have created their own paint jobs and stuff like that. So very, very happy with this game. And again, it reignited that I guess interest that I had previously in the past with sim-like racing games. So a fantastic choice. If you have an Xbox One and like racing games, look no further than Forza 6 Motorsport. At number 7, I believe, number 7. We we're gonna start with the Wii U games here. I got a text message here. We're gonna start with number 7 here, a Wii U game exclusive, and we're talking about Splatoon. I was very pleasantly surprised with this game. It's a very fresh take on a third-person shooter type of game, and this game is just colorful, and it has a very interesting single-player campaign, which is a little bit short, unfortunately. I would have liked to be the single player to be a little bit longer, but nevertheless, this game, it's just fun to play overall. And the mechanic of where you throw paint to the walls or to the ground, and then you can transform yourself into a squid and dive into the paint, adds a whole different layer of tactics when you're playing online. Unfortunately, I got this game a little bit late. I bought this game like a month after it came out, and the people were already really good, especially the Japanese players. So I was getting owned online in this game, but nevertheless, I put a bunch of hours into this, and I was pleasantly surprised. And I'm really happy that this game was a success for Nintendo sales-wise, because it's a new IP, and I think Nintendo bringing new ideas and new IPs to the table is always interesting. So Splatoon, a very fun third-person shooter that is very unique and very colorful and very charming. At number 6, I believe, we have another Wii U game, and that game is Super Mario Maker, a game that if this would have been my dream game when I was little, and Super Mario World was my game of all time when I was growing up. And the fact that this game lets you play and create your own levels, it's just fantastic. And the amount of tools at your disposal is pretty impressive. And you're basically given the most iconic set of tools as far as platforming games in history, and they allow you to create the levels you want. And some of the creations that I've seen from the community are just simply fantastic. A lot of creativity in terms of levels. Some people are creating levels that are not necessarily platforming levels, but puzzle type of levels and things like that. So very interesting way also of Nintendo of supporting the game, because they keep releasing periodic updates to the game, and they added checkpoints, for example, not too long ago. They added doors and keys, and they keep adding new stuff that that will keep the community busy. So Super Mario Maker allows you to your imagination to go wild and explore and create your own levels. And me personally, I had more fun creating my own levels, which are not very good, but I just had fun creating using the different tools than playing other people's levels. So I thought that was a pretty interesting achievement of the game. And I'm not usually big into creating my own levels or characters and things like that, but this game right here, you just can't help but to be happy when you play this game. It gives you the the tools of the most iconic platforming series in the history of gaming, and it allows you to do whatever you want. So fantastic game, Super Mario Maker, at number 6, I believe. At number 5, I have a platformer for the Wii U as well, and this doesn't let you create your own levels, but the level design in this game is fantastic, and I'm talking about Yoshi's Woolly World. And simply put, this is my favorite Yoshi game of all time. And yes, that means that this game, I put this game on top of Yoshi's Island for the Super Nintendo, which I know a lot of people have that game up there in their lists, but Yoshi's Woolly World is just a fantastic game. The level design is absolutely gorgeous. The graphics in this game are charming, and one of the best looking games of this generation, period. From a technical point of view, there's nothing incredibly impressive, but it's the art direction in this game that really gives it a personality. Everything is artsy, based. You can see the yarn and the different types of textures in the characters and the levels. And this game was just a joy to play. The level design was impeccable in this game. The collectibles are fun to get and explore the levels. It makes you go back to the levels to unlock more secret levels. And the game, surprisingly, even though it looks pretty cute and charming, the game ramps up in difficulty quite considerably towards the end of the game. And not to mention the secret levels, which are very, very difficult and very challenging. So there's a little bit of everything here in Yoshi's Woolly World. Pretty nice amiibo implementation as well, with different costumes and things like that. So Yoshi's Woolly World, my favorite Yoshi game of all time. I feel like it should have placed higher on my list, but I do have a couple of games here that I'll show you guys that obviously beat this game. But this is my 5. It made it to my top 5, so very impressive. Yoshi's Woolly World for the Nintendo Wii U. At number 4, a game that I'm kind of glad I decided to postpone my recording of this video all the way until April, because I beat it recently, like a month or 2 ago, and I'm talking about Life is Strange for the PlayStation 4. One of the best games in terms of being a visual adventure type of game. When I compare this, I like to compare this game to like the Telltale games and games like Heavy Rain or Beyond Two Souls, and this is my favorite out of that bunch. And I just really enjoy the story and the characters. Very I guess likable characters, very good voice acting and dialogue. But the most important thing in my opinion was it felt like a very real game, even though it has some supernatural things going on in the game. It felt like a very real game in terms of the people that you deal with, the different drama that occurs in the game, because this occurs in a boarding high school. And I just love the characters and the setting of the game, and I was hooked with this game. I played it from beginning to the end in a very short time, and I went on ahead to get the platinum as well. So look into my impressions video. I discussed the story in this game in more detail. But yeah, Life is Strange, I was pleasantly surprised. Give this game a shot if you enjoy the Telltale games or games that are similar to that, because this is a fantastic game. So highly recommend it. Life is Strange, number 4 on my list. Oof, I have a pretty big pile here now. And now we're getting to the top 3, which is the top games of 2015 for me personally. And here we have another game that a lot of people had pretty high up on their list, and some people even had it at number 1. So for me, at number 3, we have Bloodborne for the PlayStation 4. And simply put, this is the best exclusive game on the PlayStation 4 right now. This game alone is worth the price of admission of a PlayStation 4. It's worth owning a console for this game right here. It has one of the most interesting and unique settings out of any game that I played. A combination of like Gothic and Victorian, very, very dark themes that they just suit the game, the atmosphere and the scenery extremely well. And of course, as far as gameplay, no surprises here. This is a From Software game. If you guys are familiar with the Dark Souls games or Demon Souls, you know exactly what to expect. A very brutally hard game, but at the same time very rewarding. After you beat a boss, after you learn the patterns, it just feels very rewarding, and it's a fantastic game that I highly recommend anybody that owns a PS4 to have. To boot, even if you guys are veterans of the Souls games, this game has a very unique gameplay where it rewards being an aggressive type of player. Whereas in the Souls games, you know, you have your shield up, you have to learn the patterns. You play a little bit more of a defensive type of approach, whereas in Bloodborne it's a little bit more aggressive. You have a weapon that you can use to like parry or counter attacks and things like that. So from a gameplay standpoint, Bloodborne is fantastic, and the level design is gorgeous. In terms of opening shortcuts, how the levels are interconnected, I can go on and on talking about this game. It's a masterpiece, and again, in my opinion, so far the best exclusive on the PlayStation 4. Now, after all that praise I have for Bloodborne, what the hell is better than that, right? Well, for number 2, it's a digital game. I can show it to you right here, but it's a similar choice that I made in 2013. I don't know if you guys remember in 2013. I'm sorry, last year, 2014. My game of the year was Mario Kart for the Mario Kart 8 for the Wii U. And you know, even though there are AAA games out there with high budgets and you know, Hollywood-esque types of storylines, voice acting, very in-depth gameplay, to me, what matters the most is the fun factor, the enjoyment that you get out of the game. And my number 2 choice did exactly that. And I'm talking about Rocket League for the PlayStation 4, a game that came out as a PlayStation Plus game on release day, and it was one of the most fun and addicting games that I played in a very long time. To the point that, you know, this is not only my opinion, but other people also enjoyed the game. And this game created a very, I guess, it created a revolution basically, because there are tons of stream channels here on Twitch, YouTube Gaming. There are leagues like esports leagues that were created around this game, and it just became a phenomenon in the indie scene, or in the esports scene really. You know, tournaments where, you know, money prizes, and a lot of people are celebrities. You know, the best Rocket League players are celebrities, and they have Twitch channels that are dedicated to this game. So I am not surprised that this game caused this phenomenon, because it's a really fun game that is extremely easy to pick up and play. It's basically soccer inside cars, so very easy to pick up and play, very simple concept, but in order to master this game, it's extremely hard. And I thought I was good at the game because I got it on release day and I played it for hours and hours and hours, and I got the Platinum trophy and everything. And I thought I was good at it, and then I stopped playing. I got sidetracked. I decided to move on into other games, and my friends from South America that are still playing the game, I was better than them, but now they keep playing the game, and they got way better than I could ever be. And my friend the other day sent me a video of this goal that he scored. He just went up a wall and then did a double flip, and it was an aerial shot. And it's insane how good people have gotten in this game. So I'm kind of afraid of going back to Rocket League, because people are obsessed with this game, and with a very good reason. Again, it's all about the enjoyment and the fun factor, and Rocket League was able to deliver that. No storyline here, no voice acting, no AAA type of budget. It's just a pretty simple game, but the fun is what matters in video games, and that's why Rocket League ended up being at number 2 in my list. And at number 1, I'm going to have a very odd choice. I'm pretty sure not a whole lot of people are going to have this game up there. But it was a combination of not only enjoyment, but loving this series, and just the progression and overall enjoyment and appreciation that I have for this series. And what's the most odd thing about my selection of number 1 is that it's a game from last generation. I know that's going to sound weird, guys. It's another digital game for the PlayStation 3, and I'm talking about Yakuza 5. This game is not for everybody. Out of the gate, I have to say that it's a very personal choice, and the reason why I chose this game is because it builds up from Yakuza. Well, me personally, I started with Yakuza 3, and then I moved on to 4 and 5, and every Yakuza game that I've been playing, for every iteration, the games keep getting better and better, and I get more. I can relate more to the characters. I get to appreciate more the characters, the settings. Even though it's not a true open world game, you still feel a lot of freedom. It's so much fun just to walk into a restaurant, order something from the menu, or stop at a karaoke bar, or going to a hostess club. There's so many mini games. There's so many side stories. The game takes itself seriously, but at the same time, it's cheesy, it's comical. And you know what's the most fun part about it is that the game is serious about it. There are so many ridiculous things in this game that it's really hard to explain. And again, this is not for everybody. The Yakuza games are very long. They're action games that with light RPG elements, and you truly have to play the games in progression. In my opinion, at least since 3, you have to keep playing the game just to soak yourself into the atmosphere of Kamurocho and all the other cities you get to explore and all the other characters that you get to play with this game, which is another cool thing about 5 is you get to play different characters similarly to Yakuza 4, where you have 4 different stories and 4 different characters you could control. So again, it's a very personal choice, but the more I play the Yakuza games, the more soaked I get into the story, the characters, and the graphics get better with each iteration. And I'm really excited now that the series have moved into the PS4 side of things, and I'm really excited to play Yakuza 0 and Yakuza 6 eventually. Hopefully it comes this way to the West. But yeah, Yakuza 5, a PlayStation 3 games guys, gets my #1 spot. And, you know, we have all this technology here, all these great graphics, AAA budgets, but it's a Sega game, you know, PS3 game from last generation that won my Game of 2015 award. A brief mention, a couple of disappointments that I want to mention. From 2015, Star Wars Battlefront, a pretty solid game, looks fantastic, one of the better looking games of this generation, but very shallow in terms of the gameplay and the game modes that the game offers. So it was a little bit of a disappointment in my opinion. Also, Chibi Robo for the 3DS, a solid platformer. I did not mind the slow nature of the game, but there were some questionable design decisions such as spinning the wheel to progress to the next level. That, in my opinion, was a mind-boggling decision by Nintendo, which is, I don't know how can Nintendo, you know, the kings of platformers, they could screw something up with some decisions like that. So the gameplay itself, it was fun, but that spin wheel thing completely ruined the game for me. So Chibi Robo for 3DS, unfortunately, was a disappointment. And perhaps my biggest disappointment was Project Codename Steam. From Intelligent Systems, you know, the people from the Fire Emblem games, they're expert at our strategy games, but I couldn't really care too much for this game. I put a considerable amount of hours. I beat a few levels. The characters were interesting, but there was something about the game that the level design, the way the enemies were spread out throughout the levels, I was not having fun with that game, and I don't foresee myself going back into it. So Codename Steam was, in my opinion, my biggest disappointment of the year. Now, games that I think could have made it to my list, well, if it's not obvious, I mean, and if you guys watch my pickup videos, you know that I own Xenoblade Chronicles X for the Wii U. You know that I bought The Witcher 3 for the PS4, and there's two other games that I have not bought, that I don't have on my shelf, but I think they could have made it into my list, which is Rise of the Tomb Raider for the Xbox One. I think at this point I'm just gonna wait for the PS4 version to come out. And the other one is Tales of Zestiria, which I really like the Tales of games, and I truly think that if I play that game, it could have made it into my list. But I want to focus specifically on The Witcher 3 and Xenoblade Chronicles X, because I have no doubt that those games would have made it easily into my top 10. And again, I don't have the whole if I had the whole time in the world, I would have played those games by now. But those are very demanding RPGs that require a ton of time, and you know, I will get to them eventually, but you know, for now they're gonna be in my backlog list. So that's it for now. Hopefully you guys enjoy the videos. I apologize for the delay. I know it's April, it's already late, but hopefully in 2016 I get to release this video a little bit earlier. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all later.